what happens when you become undead? I don't mean like a vampire or even a flesh golem. I'll get to the vampires later. I mean, does a skeleton have a soul? Or what happens if somebody turns you into a zombie shortly after death? Does your soul return to your body when somebody casts Speak to the Dead? Kind of like what we see in the D&D movie? Could you play an intelligent undead in the official base game? Let's find out. So anyways, I lied to you. I'm getting to vampires right now. All right. I want to bring these guys up first because they're the most obvious, hey, these guys are intelligent and they should have some access to the soul, or they clearly have the memories of their past life. They're like you should have your soul, right? You may be a bit of a blood-hungry beast, but it's not too bad. Wrong. Being a vampire really sucks. I don't mean that the weaknesses outweigh the strengths, even though they do, or you're enslaved to another vampire, which by the way, yes, thank you Baldur's Gate 3 for reminding everyone about that. You're literally gonna become evil or are forced to become evil the second you become a vampire. According to the law, becoming a vampire elevates your most prominent traits into a negative extreme. Just think about it. You're the brave hero of ages, known for your, well, bravery as a hero of the nation. You just so happen in a moment of weakness get drained of all of your life essence by a powerful vampire lord. Well, now you're shit out of luck having to serve a maniac with dark magic powers. Already, that's not all you might have gotten. You also got the wonderful corruption that comes along with being a blood-sucking monster to begin with, and your bravery, something that makes you fundamentally who you are, can be twisted into intense cowardice or maybe just reckless insanity. But that's not all. Even if you, through intense strength of will, manage to overcome and become a somewhat good person, from the pages of the Van Richten's Guide to Vampires, where a good person turned vampire over a period of a decade gradually descended into the darkness. From a number of events, usually constituting the fact that people weren't thanking him for his good work. So even if you do manage to keep yourself relatively whole after serving a definitely evil vampire lord, and then have the strength of will and character to remain mostly good after the transformation is complete, you are still open to the growing corruption that comes from just being an eternal being that has to feed on blood and still suffer the corrupting effects to your soul and personality, while of course you have to shy away from humanity and all things mortal because you are fundamentally an evil blood-sucking monster. But that's not all there is. You could still become a lich. Surely that would be a lot cooler with the magic spells and the conditional immortality. You don't even need to live forever. You could just poof, crack your phylactery at any time and you're fine to go, right? Well, let's talk about a thing I didn't mention in the last segment. Negative energy. So remember all those things I mentioned about vampires being corrupted? Well, that's not a vampire thing, that's just an undead thing. You're an affront to all that is living, and you now have to live or unlive with that. So what does that mean? Well, the aforementioned corrupted changes to your personality, as well as the fact that you're a pure undead who probably lacks any empathy at all for your fellow living being, you also have to contend with the fact that you are absorbing negative energy, which comes from the negative energy plane, a plane of literal unlife. This place sucks. It's terrible. It's just a void of nothing where the only thing that could really live in it are other undead. So imagine that, a plane that is fundamentally the opposite of positive energy. You know, the stuff that clerics and paladins use that heals people and generally makes people feel better? Well, it's the opposite of that. It's evil, corrupting death energy that at best will leave you a corpse and at worst will corrupt your very soul and nature and twist it into a thing that is opposed to all life. And remember, as a lich, you also lose all of life's pleasures. You can't eat, you can't sleep, you can't drink, can't do other stuff. But doesn't sound so bad, right? You could focus on your work, you aren't distracted, and there aren't any accounts of a lich ever really lamenting their ability to eat a Big Mac. But imagine yourself trying to be a morally upright person, if you somehow were after doing all the bullshit you need to become a lich in the first place. Oh hello, Book of Evil Darkness. Imagine you're a morally upright person, and after all of that, you now have to contend with the fact that your skin has melted away from your body, you're a corpse tied to an object, you have basically all evil powers, your powers rely on you summoning undead from corpses, and the fact that you are now soul infused with evil energy, and as a lich, you probably got your powers either from a dark god, or from another lich, or from a ritual that required you to do something extremely evil, And now imagine all of that and trying to be a morally upright person, not gonna end well for you. And no, I'm not gonna list the phylacteries and negative here. Yes, you can randomly die if somebody finds it, but I randomly die if I take a particularly nasty fall down the stairs. So being functionally immortal, if I could just keep one pretty durable and pretty small thing from cracking, then it's not nearly as bad as just being a person. Oh, and do you like being hunted forever? That's the funny little thing about being the ultimate embodiment of evil and all things unholy. Do you remember Asarak, dude from Tomb of Annihilation? That dude had a whole tomb to protect his bony ass. So now you kind of have to do the same. Sure, you could annihilate anybody with the flick of your fingers or create armies of undead, but you're living in a world where people could casually create tsunamis, create spells that could revive the dead, and also there are a whole bunch of subclasses and schools of magic designed just to be more effective at annihilating you specifically. I mean, think of the paladins or clerics. Yeah, they're not going to be able to kill you if there's one of them, but imagine fighting 10 of them, a whole school of clerics, who all have spells that do extra damage to you. Well, let's just bundle all things undead together. You could take your pick of being a jumble of a bunch of zombies put together, a rotting corpse, just a skeleton, or at best a slightly less rotting ghoul who trades the increased intelligence and lack of looking like a complete rotting corpse with an insatiable, and I mean insatiable, hunger for flesh. Do you like feeling hungover? Well, you can feel that basically permanently as your undead ass is basically no brains left, even if your soul did hitch a ride. I mean, I'm sure the ghoul's 8 intelligence is gonna work out great for you, but at best, you're just a dumber version of yourself who needs to eat flesh constantly, or you're gonna go into wild episodes of murder rage. But at least you got a nice seat in whatever afterlife you're in to watch your corpse being paraded around to whatever adventure mercy bashes you back into, well, being a corpse. You could be a ghost or a specter, where you could experience the joy of being an angry, vengeful spirit or a trapped, angry, vengeful spirit that, unlike a lich, definitely misses their humanity, or at best is constantly haunted by their past. So maybe next time you're thinking that maybe it's not so bad to become an undead with all those cool abilities, you could take a step back and just achieve immortality in a way that doesn't require you to hand out your existence to an energy with the word negative baked into it. Hey, this is Ralmo. Please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. I'm gonna make a lot more of these videos. I've been wanting to make a lot more of these videos, so please leave a comment below if you want to hear me talk about more of this stuff. I love all things tabletop. I've wanted to talk about D&D for a while, so I have plenty of videos stocked up, and I'll see you next time.